Hello, everybody. This is Frogman. Welcome back to Satisfactory. We are currently standing on top of a little mountain over here that's kind of just outside of main base. It's kind of in the middle of, well, this general starting zone, starting area that is called the Rocky Desert. And yes, we're kind of looking at the base because I finally sat down and did a bit of, well, a little bit more cleanup and work. Not the prettiest thing in the world, was never intended to be the prettiest thing in the world, but I did go ahead and at least skirt the entirety of the outside, and then I did a little bit of, I guess, trimming work on that last little level, that last tier that was up there. We never got anything put up on that last tier, and, well, there was no real point in me leaving those walls up so that you can't really kind of see past some of the stuff. I'm going to say, guys, it's probably like the last episode that we're going to have in this for today, which is why I've kind of spent a little bit of time polishing some of the stuff that I wanted to look at. So I did finally go put windows in our wire factory over there, and again, I kind of did a little bit of a cleanup job over here that we can kind of take a look at. The trucks and tractors now have kind of little garages that they pull into, although I didn't really do any kind of other decoration other than, you know, just kind of getting a few things going. You're just so wonky. This thing just, I've been sitting here watching it the whole time, and it just will not do what I'm supposed to do, or what it needs to do. But anyhow, we'll kind of take a quick wander around again. The outside has pretty well been covered with wall, and we have a few things to look at. Mainly just, you know, finely prettied up stuff. Nice little garage over here. These trucks can kind of wander their way out, and hopefully they won't get too messed up. Again, I did do a little bit of window work over there, so all of those are pretty well done as far as the buildings are concerned. I could probably be a little prettier with them, but I was never intending this base to be very pretty. I just kind of wanted it to look okay, good enough, but function well. And it's good enough. It's good enough for what I want to do. We have all of our other stuff over here. I guess for what we can do is we can take a walk around the base. So wire maker facility. These over here is where we make the copper sheets, and those are two pure copper ingot systems that are set up because for those of you that have ever started here, there's only what, 3 copper nodes right here, fairly close, and they're normal. So refining is pretty much what the best way is to be able to get any massive amount of copper per products out of it. So way early on we started making copper wire out of the like 9 or 10 iron nodes that are over here. I forget how many there are exactly, but there's quite a few things to look at as far as we go. I'm not going to walk through the entire base. We're going to kind of do a little bit of a drive around, probably ride around with the trains to check out a couple of things, and, you know, maybe put one more little decoration up that is going to go into the pasta factory once we get over there. So it kind of just, you know, that's kind of the fun things that I was looking at trying to do. Anyhow, yes, most of the base is currently running still. We're shoving everything we can possibly shove into Awesome Sinks right now to continuously make tickets, and we've been pretty much making a reasonable amount of tickets. The system is still not very great. I mean, I'd love to be making at least twice what we're making right now, but when it's on and when it's running, we're making close to 13 million points per minute, or somewhere around in that area. The reason why it dips down, I kind of found that out last time. The reason why it dips down is because we deliver a considerable amount of that stuff to the the pasta factory. When we take the cubes that we have to fill those things up with, or the cubes that we fill, we move all those over there. We're only getting made at about 21 or 22 per minute, so it takes it a couple of minutes to ramp itself back up before we start being able to have a problem, or being able to do what we need to do. When it's running maxed out, it's making, like I said, almost 13 million points per minute. The entire base, factory, whatever. There's a couple of spots I did shut down because, well, they're really not doing much anyway, but we are taking quite a few of the things. I guess we're done in here as far as I remember. I wanted to try to take a look at that really quickly. I think everything is done in here, and we did everything in this on the last episode. And yeah, it's just kind of the things and the way things work. There's still some leftover production as far as space elevator parts that we're leaving up and running. I believe these manufacturers are the ones that are making the magnetic field generators, because they make a reasonable amount of parts and tickets and points, so they're still up and running. All of the stuff that is required to keep those up and running is up and running as well. Random junk, random things, random stuff. We're still making a pile of circuit boards and AI limiters and cooling units, and yeah, just all the random other things that you can do. And of course, the train stations are busy hauling things from point A to point B to make all kinds of noise. Anyhow, let's go in here. Of course, I think I've got all this more or less still put back together. I did have it mostly torn apart. I had to get some of the glass out of the ceiling so that we could kind of figure things out. But this is the storage room for the most part. Anything that is, well, reasonably easy to get over here is over here from the rest of the factory. All four lanes over here bring stuff in from all four corners of the factory. So there's all four sides. They have these little veins that go out into them that come out and bring things back into the main storage room. And had kind of a hindsight 2020 kind of thing, or you know what is always 2020. I should have built these at least 2 wider and another 1 taller to be able to get everything in nicely, but it is what it is. It was a fun idea. I don't think I'm ever going to do this again. I don't know why you're not put away. I did kind of do a little bit of decorating and things, and I guess there's still a ladder around that doesn't need to be here. I've been slowly cleaning up random junk and just things that are laying around, but yeah, it was a kind of a fun idea, and I don't know if I'll ever do it again, just because of the absolute nightmare that it is to try to get everything to come through little sections. Like in here, I guess we can grab it and look. But yeah, every one of these hallways is crammed full of belts, and it can get a little annoying to play with. So maybe next time I think about trying to build vertically instead of horizontally, and not lay things out the way that I did. But it does work. So main base, again, space elevator. We unlocked the last little major thing an episode or 2 ago and got our coffee cup, so that we have our coffee to drink now, and there shouldn't be anything left until, well, probably what's going to happen is that after early access is complete and closed and the game actually releases is when we'll probably be able to do anything in the rest of this factory. And I assume at that point they'll probably, well, make me have to restart, and we'll all love that kind of an idea. So let's go over here, back over to that little rock I think is over here. Where is he? Yes. Let's go over to this rock real quick so we kind of look around at some of the other stuff. Boink. Up on top. We aren't going to look at a lot of things. I was going to say we could kind of wander around a bunch of stuff, but we're going to kind of just look at a few things. So in this corner over here of the world is my steel, or one of these steel processing facilities. It's mainly everything in there goes into base for building and for construction of other things. It's a little bitty system, but it does do the work. There is a bunch of pure iron right over in that corner, and a whole lot of coal up there on top by that crater, which is a great place to come kind of build iron, and steel is somewhere around in that area generally. There is a Caterium node right over there, which I'm dragging down to a bunch of refineries, turning that into pure Caterium, which is then being shoved into that building, which is making a bunch of quick wire that is being brought back over to the factory. Again, on the other side over there, those are our wire making facilities, or our wire making factory. I tapped all 4 of the pure iron nodes over there, and we're making wire out of them. Right now, about half of it's getting shoved into an awesome sink. The other half is being brought over here and being used to do the rest of the work. And then, yeah, well, you know, the kind of fun stuff. The little drone over there, he's running over there behind all of that rock to go get the nitrogen, to bring it back over here so we can use some nitrogen in the base to do all of the fun stuff. So main base has been right here for a really long time. I think we didn't even bother looking at moving or doing anything. So we've had some really massive projects out in the rest of the world. And I think, well, we should go look at the first one, which I don't remember which massive project was the first one. I think it was that one over there. So let's go hop in a train and we'll go take a look at well, don't do that. Let's go hop in a train and we'll go take a look at the plastic and rubber facility that we have just off the side over here. Alrighty, we're rolling in on one of the original oil processing facilities over here. That's where we originally started making plastic and rubber at, and for whatever reason I've got red on it. I don't know why. I'll have to go look. No big deal. Probably because I've been fooling with a few things over here. But this is the system that makes 840, I believe, plastic and 840 rubber per minute on either side, using the recycling recipes that are given to us via alternates. Pretty much, I believe almost everything in here is alternate. Hey, come here, you. God dang it. He's gonna go through and be an idiot. We'll catch him over here as he comes in. The spot is over here. Stand down. There we go. All right, nice. You, stop. Okay, wait. Stop. Stop. I need you out of the way. Thank you. All right, I don't want to accidentally mess things up. Of course, we have presents dropping everywhere. Love it. Anyhow, the way the system works, for those of you that don't know, the best way to make rubber and plastic is by using the recycling recipes that consist of taking a bunch of fuel and mixing it with the other type of thing, and that will allow you to pretty much double and triple and whatever the heck it is the numbers are. And the fun part is that it's very, very this whole mess runs off of one pure oil node. So if you really, really, really want to get silly and make a lot of plastic and a lot of rubber, that processes incredibly well. Now, this is a no-loss system. I do not throw anything away. In the process of making the fuel or making the heavy oil, you should be getting whatever the little blue crystals are down here. If I go take a look, yeah, those little guys right there. Some people throw those things away. I run them into their own separate refineries, and they're run back into the system, and they were actually what I used to prime the system to get it running. That and a little bit of help. Now, the thing is, like I say, the fun part about this is the opposite sides use the material that the other one makes to make the material it makes, if you kind of get my drift. So we feed rubber in on that side, we get plastic out. We feed plastic in on that side, we get rubber out, and we get double the amount. So it actually makes a really large amount of stuff. Now, yeah, there's a nightmare of a belt mess of stuff down here, and this is just me being really, really bored and just trying to have a good time making a really, really nasty thing. But essentially what this thing does is it makes sure that all 4 lanes of plastic and rubber coming out of both sides are evenly, well, I should say split, and then sent that direction. And then once that direction is empty, or that direction is full, or I should say both the sides are full, then it drops it out into the storage and puts it into the train station. It's kind of a pain in the butt, and it took me a really long time, but it is more or less symmetrical, and it more or less does the exact same thing. It's just there's about 5 or 6 belt balancers, well, I should say 4 or 5, it's like 16? 8 belt balancers all built into this mess that also have overflow. That's how we get everything in and out of it. So it's definitely a mess. It definitely works, but it's just one of those, I could have easily done that a heck of a lot better had I not built this in a mirrored fashion the way that we did. The usage here is one of these things where we do this here in another factory on the other side of the world where we produce our power. We're using the refinery method to make the watered down fuel, or I should say alternate diluted fuel. I just put these in here because it was going to be a heck of a lot easier to make things work, and then you have to listen to those guys talk all the time. Anyhow, that is our plastic and rubber factory. We're going to go probably, I guess, let's go to the fuel. We'll do fuel production next. We'll go to the power plant next, because that's the next big monster that we have to take a look at, and then we'll go take at what we've been looking at for like the last couple of months. So let's get on over to there. All right, riding into the northern forest, we should start to see some stuff show up. There it is. There should be a whole bunch of refineries and, well, quite a few fuel generators kind of stacked around the area. Yes, I need to do a little bit more foundation work over here. It's one of those projects I've yet to get done, but that's fine. But in here, again, is the same process we just kind of looked at before, except it's using refiners instead of the blenders to make diluted fuel. This process, this system, I forget, it's 100 and 480 some odd. I don't forget. I remember how many at this point. Refineries, generators we have at this point. But I know it's enough to produce a reasonable amount of power because we're currently pushing right around here, 61, 62. The fluctuation is coming from the fact that I went ahead and set up all of the, I think, except that one. I don't remember if I managed to get that one hooked up or not. We have plenty of power. The reason why the power is fluctuating again is because we have all of the geothermal generators set up, and I think there's one, like I said, there's one right over there. I don't remember if I got that one set up or not, but this factory produces a ridiculous amount of diluted fuel, again, off of just a couple of nodes over here. I think we've got a pure node and a normal node kind of maxed out, not really. But yeah, we're making a considerable amount of fuel. We're taking all that fuel and essentially shoving it into a bunch of machines that are over there, those refineries over there, because of the fact that we're doing the turbo fuel method of making power at this point in this base. Yes, I've got quite a few coal generators, but I think 50, I forget what the number was exactly, like 50 megawatts or 51 or 2 or something like that is being made strictly off of the fuel generation system. And yes, I see I've got a couple of lights that are meaning that I can probably turn things back on again. This was a nightmare, and for what it's worth, fluid pipes are still the bane of my existence in this game. They're not as great as one would like them to be, and for the most part they could really use with a decent amount of work. And I know that that's just, I've said that a couple of times, but it's functional, it's working. I don't know why that's there. That's a terrible place to work it at, but at least most of this system is working, and it's working, has been working for quite a while. We have rows upon rows upon rows of fuel generators out here. I think there's like 80 or something over here, and another 110, I forget. It's almost 200 if I recall correctly. It's been forever. But we take the fuel coming out of this area, we move it into a bunch of refineries over in this corner, where they take that fuel and mix it with compacted coal, if I recall correctly. Yes, compacted coal, and that produces turbo fuel, and turbo fuel runs for absolutely ever in these generators, so it's definitely worth it. I mean, I guess I could have probably ran, I think it's 2/3 of the amount of generators I could have run off of the fuel that system over there produces, and for what it's worth, we probably could have saved ourselves a lot of hassle and headache and heartache and pain. But hey, it's always fun to kind of play things around with, but that's why I like doing things the way that we do. We'll run over here and we'll take a look down off the edge, because there are still even more generators over there, and well, those generators are over there. We can kind of run down this direction and maybe go over to the compacted coal section really quickly. Alrighty, we're going to drop into the top of this. This is still kind of incomplete. One of these years I will get bored and do it. This is part of our munitions factory after the update 6 change happened, where we had to make, well, gunpowder or smokeless powder and turn that into cluster nobles, because they're like my favorite things in the whole wide world now that I've gotten to play with them. And yes, those are kind of sitting over here. We make our compacted coal using sulfur and coal from the surrounding area, aside from a small amount that I drag back from over by the well, those other two, over that direction quite a ways. There's some sulfur that we drag back in, but all of the coal in the area, at least most of the coal in the area right here, is being utilized either to produce power or, well, those things. So yeah, that's interesting. The lights go out when you get close to them. Funny. All right, but yes, this is what we do. Over here we have all of our, I kind of decided on this system to kind of be a little goofy with how I wanted to set up the assemblers to make the compacted coal. So the belts and all of the mergers and splitters are all hung above them in a kind of a little dog bony, wishbony fashion like that. And then this folds back over. There's a lot of vertical in this factory, and that's kind of what I wanted, was to raise things upwards and move them up, and then, you know, once we get to the other end over here, move them upwards as well. Of course, the birds don't like me because I've been, you know, taking over their area. But again, we're sucking up as much coal as we possibly can for the most part. Oh, I think this one is being quite quiet at this point. I don't know why, but for the most part, everything I tend to build when it's a factory, I tend to make sure that they overproduce. So we're way overproducing on compacted coal, we're way overproducing on fuel, and we're producing a reasonable amount of turbo fuel over there to be able to run everything. So let me run back up here. And that is most of the fuel production / power generation in the base. There are multiple locations throughout that. We have plenty of coal power in a few places, but again, it just fuel generators until I got tired of putting down fuel generators, and putting down fuel generators until I got tired of putting down fuel generators, kind of thing. Not very far from here is what is left of our Christmas factory. It is right over there, I believe, right over in that area, and I was actually going to swing through there and maybe grab a couple of snowballs just in case they had a few. Factory has been running for a little while. It wasn't intended to be very fancy, but I am going to go over there and grab some snowballs so I have something to throw at people, and I guess we'll continue on once I get that done. Oh, hey. Yeah, see, this is why I like snowballs. This is why I like snowballs. They stack to a ridiculous amount, and they're just as good as any other grenade. So we'll let that run a little while. Yes, this was the kind of the really last 2 or 3 episodes of us trying to get a few things together to the point where that's all I wanted was exploding snowballs. That's literally the only reason why I even bother messing with it. The point, you can come with me, sir. We don't need you anymore. It's one of those I need to clean it all up, put it back together, and kind of get rid of it and put a few things away. One thing I will say about this base, this playthrough, this run, or this thing, is that this section, this base was never ever part of, had never been put into the that is the Spire Coast update. It was never over there, so I never had to move anything. I purposely designed the entire system not to live out of the Spire Coast, so we used everything else that we could. And well, as it is, the Spire Coast for us is as pristine as it could be. There's nothing over there in that area. There's, aside from the train track that runs kind of right straight through the middle of the little valley down here, it has not been touched, aside from us exploring it one time. Now that they've got that done, and if there does become another update, or maybe we get another early access update beforehand or whatever, and I still have to fix that because they had to put that rock in the middle of the way. But if they ever decide to do another update, we may try to move out into the Spire Coast and play around out there, because there is some pretty cool stuff. Anyhow, we're going to go to the next big thing, which was when we decided, or I decided, I was going to start trying to make as many of these as I possibly could. So I got to jump down there and then go that way. Off to our left is the Dune Desert. I don't have a single thing out in the Dune Desert this time around, aside from several, well, I did run a circle track around out there just in case I felt like I needed to go get any of the resources, and we are pulling some of the coal out of the this desert. It's one of those, it's okay. It's just a humongous area, and I kind of wanted to be spread out all over the place, and I know I could have probably fit the entirety of my entire playthrough inside that desert, so we kind of left it alone. But we're creeping up on the next little location, or little big. This is a mostly purpose-built factory. It is not pretty. However, there is some design done to it, mainly because it's again built somewhat vertically. But we're going to go into the swamp now, and you're still not unloading that, I guess. Okay, whatever. And we're going to go to the swamp, and we're going to go look at the aluminum casing factory that we need. Well, we had to build in order to be able to make a whole bunch of parts over that next hill, which we're going to go look at probably in a couple of steps. But anyhow, this is where we're making, I don't even remember now, 2,000 or more per minute aluminum casings, so that we can make the pressure conversion cubes in a factory that is just over the hill, so that we can do nuclear pasta. The last, I don't know how many episodes, was basically me trying to come up with as many ways to make some reasonable amounts of tickets as possible. And again, for whatever reason, this box is, well, full, and that one's not empty. Whatever. They're all working. Everything's fine. I've been fiddling with this quite a bit, trying to get it to work. But again, it's a kind of another one of those laid it out in a kind of a stadium thing idea. All of the initial aluminum processing is happening back there. So we start down here with the aluminum ore, or whatever it is, the aluminum ore, and then we pump it upwards once it gets liquefied, and that is turned up into the scrap aluminum up on top, that is then waterfalled back down into a whole lot of, well, smelters. There's an awful lot of smelters up here. There's a pile of smelters back behind that all over there that is doing the copper for the recipe that we need the rest of it for, and we're taking the copper ingots and we're mixing them with aluminum ingots to make aluminum casing down here. Now, this has been one of my pain point, again, is because of the water that is needed at times can be a little wonky, and the game likes to be slow, especially when it starts to get a little laggy. So I've had to kind of fight with the water behind there. The water actually is delivered via the, well, I should say, we're not pulling the water from the lake behind us. We're pulling the water from above us on top. So the water falls with all of that force down here. It's good enough that it can pump itself almost all the way back up to the top of this thing without pumps at all. So there's enough water pressure that it works. But sometimes if the game hiccups, I have to come back over here and fiddle with the numbers in these little valves to get everything to go back to work. But it looks like we're kind of still working okay, maybe. I might have to do it again. Looks like we're a little full in those pipes, but it's been a little bit of a hassle to get that to work. And the other fun thing was trying to get the coal over in this area, because we're dragging it from the Dune Desert over to here. So yes, I'm dragging, I forget how much it is now. What does it say? Should tell me. 605 items of coal per minute per one of these things. So 600, this one's like 600, but yeah. So that's where we're getting all the coal. The coal is coming from several nodes over there being dropped into this thing, and it takes 2 trains to keep up with this because of the distance. So that's one of those things to kind of play with if you're ever having a hard time trying to keep up with well, throughput on a train, because the train cars are so small comparative to the size of the container that you're filling, that it can actually sometimes take 2 trains to make the work happen. But anyhow, that's how we're doing that. Let us, yeah, this makes an awful lot of aluminum casing, and for what it's worth, it was making a reasonable amount of tickets just on its own. I guess the next stop is we need to go to the place where we're making heavy modular frames. So let's go take a drive or a ride over there. Alrighty, we're sliding into the station, probably because the other train is right here. You're gonna let me get through, right? Yeah, see, this shouldn't happen. This shouldn't happen. That's okay, doesn't matter. That's the problem with some of these non-smart things, but that's okay. We don't need to worry about it. This is what I decided to do with the Greenfields starting area. We've taken most of every reasonable, usable piece of resource in this area, aside from probably, well, that coal and whatnot that's over there. That spot that's back there in that little crater, I haven't touched yet. But I went so far as to get the iron out of the stuff behind there, and we're picking most of the iron up over here. But in this area, well, I know it's very unfinished, and I do apologize. I will probably get bored one day and, I don't know, do something with it and just finish it. But for right now, it works. It's a kind of an example of you don't necessarily have to make everything pretty to get everything to work. This area, given the fact that I kind of said it several times, it's a terrible starting area, is a good place to do a purpose-built specific item to get done out of the whole system. So this whole mess, this whole area makes, I think it's 21 or 22 heavy modular frames a minute. So we're taking iron from way over there, we're mixing it with coal that is being pumped in from way the heck over there, down into a bunch of steel smelter, or the whatever they are, excuse me, taking a bunch of the limestone and the concrete, making concrete here, plugging that into a bunch of factories. The factory over here is making steel pipes. This factory right here is making encased industrial beams. This factory right here is making the regular modular frames, the light ones or whatever, the first ones that you can get to make, which is being provided by iron plates from over there and iron from over there. And the screws are coming from that corner right over there, where, yes, we're using the screw recipe to do the the what is it, reinforced plates. And in top of this, or in the middle of this whole mess, or I should say at the end of this, once it's finally done and once everything is finally completed, we build all of those parts into a bunch of manufacturers over there to make the heavy modular frames. Now, this area also does a little bit of other things. We kind of drove by one of them, but part of the fun part about making nuclear pasta is you also have to make an ungodly amount of powdered copper ingots, or whatever it is, copper powder, ungodly amount. So there is a third of the amount of copper powder. Well, it's not quite a third. It's like a little more than a third of the copper powder I needed to do that process the way that we built it, coming in right there. There's a teeny tiny amount being produced way over there where there's some copper nodes and some iron nodes, and get out of my life, over here, which is being drug around the entirety of the zone on a single belt, but it's hilarious. And yes, there's another bit of copper powder being produced over there. So roughly 2/3 of the copper powder that we need to be able to do what I decided to do with nuclear pasta is being done in, well, this area as well. So it's I say it many times. The reason why I don't care for this area is because until late game, it becomes very hard to tap the nodes that are around here, because almost all of them are impure. So you're going to be stuck with little teeny tiny assembly lines until you can get either a Mark II or a Mark III miner. Once you get a Mark III miner, you can get a reasonable amount of stuff out of some of these impure nodes, to the point that I'm not using, well, I think I'm using all three of those. I think we're using everything in this zone locally except for maybe one iron node way over there, and if I need it, he's over there, I can use him. But yes, it's definitely one of those places. We're pulling all of the coal from the lake that is behind us back here, bringing it over here, and it's being plumbed into most of that, well, most of those smelters, or most of those, whatever the heck those things are called, the production foundries. Most of the foundries, most of the coal is being plumbed into there. There is not a coal power plant over there, and I thought about doing it. I haven't done it yet, but it is one of those, maybe when I get bored, I'll do it. This is a project for later kind of thing. Can I have this? Hey, hello. This is a project for later. This may be one of those times where I'll get really bored on a Thursday afternoon or a Thursday morning and crank up my YouTube and do something, and possibly just maybe sit down and finish decorating it all. But it does produce exactly what I wished it to produce, which, like I said, I believe is about 21 or 2 of these a minute, which is still really crazy if you think about how much it takes to make just a modular machine. Or machine frame, especially the heavy ones. We're using the bottom recipe. No, we're using the middle recipe, if I recall correctly, because I didn't feel like hauling rubber over here, and I really didn't feel like making that many screws. The screws were unholy to try to get done, so that's why we didn't bother doing it. But anyhow, let's get on this, and I guess we'll run the long ride all the way back. Again, that is a copper powder factory that is making that stuff over here, and it will join this belt line in just a little bit. And we're going to go up on top of the hill up to that building. I guess we can talk a little bit about the train system, but the train system, we have a train track that runs pretty much all the way around the world, or at least all the way around the world at a decent low level that we can get around, we used to get around. I've never really bothered dealing with the hypertube launchers. I mean, I use them in a couple of places, but because of the way that this playthrough has gone, hypertubes have been kind of a little miniature, not necessarily use them very often, even to the point that, like, on a factory that we're getting ready to go look at, I didn't use them when I probably should have. But over here in this area, hopefully I don't run into a train. Let's see if I can kind of slow her down a little bit. Again, a rather incomplete building for a very complete factory. It produces, well, it produces 21 pressure conversion cubes per minute. And it does it with a lot of the stuff that's around here in the area. Now, the reason why I built this factory right here is because of that thing right there, that nitrogen node, or that nitrogen well, or whatever that thing is called. Let's just kind of slide into this little spot right here, and we'll move a few things away. We don't need you. Let's go. All right, cool. This takes an awful lot of stuff from all over the world and brings it into one location and produces a couple of interesting things. Still got to work a little bit on getting this sorted out. This building was kind of a royal pain in the butt because I decided I wanted to build it in several sections, so it's in 2-3 different sections. So all of the refineries that we need are over there for Caterium. Then in this building we make the quartz, the crystal oscillator, the radio control units. In this building we produce the let me get down here all the way down to the bottom, I believe, the what is that, copper sheeting. We produce the, what is it, those are not up here. Yes, there, it's the first three right here. So the AI limiters, the circuit boards, and then the top up here we're using these to make the fused modular frames. And in the very top of this building is where I make a whole lot of these. And like I say, a whole lot, 21-ish per minute, if I recall correctly. It's 21, 22 of those per minute. Now these cubes are good for about 250,000 points each. So that's a reasonable amount just on its own. And when I was looking at the graph that we saw in the Awesome Sync, I think we can actually go over here and take a look at it, and I'll show you. Right now we're running at the lower level of what's going on. And the reason why we're running at the lower level of what's going on is that we're filling up this drone hub. And as soon as this drone hub fills back up, and those, we should be able to start seeing that fairly soon, unless he's sitting here. He's not sitting here. No, we're still filling them up. Sort, we have a couple more left. Once this fills up and that belt backs up to here, everything from that factory goes into this, well, that Awesome Sync, everything. So essentially everything we build is going straight into here. Now I could just let it run. The reason why we're making 6 million points right now is because of the fact that there's a factory over there that's making 6 million points just on its own. Well, it's more like 5 million, but it's making quite a bit. Anyhow, yes, the system is a little finicky. I should say this one is a little finicky at times. I do have to kind of babysit it because of the fact that there's just an ungodly amount of these silly those aluminum casings coming through this whole thing that has to be kind of split in a little unorthodox of a manner. So I'm sending most of the casings up this direction until they get to run into the system over here. They go that direction, they go up in that direction, and then they kind of go up and over, and then they all combine back over here in the back onto that belt, so whatever's left doesn't get used, and then that gets spread out across all of these things. Again, 2,000 aluminum casings per minute. That's, well, kind of silly into the simple fact that I'm kind of using more copper powder than I am aluminum casing. Scary kind of thoughts. But anyhow, I did choose to do this again, like I said, over here because of the fact that there is access to water, access to silica, or whatever, the quartz, excuse me, access to the quartz, access to the nitrogen, so that the only thing we're really bringing in over here is going to be the plastic, the rubber, the heavy modular frames, and the what do you call them, the aluminum casings, which, again, I probably could have just built this whole mess down over there somewhere. I have completely left the blue crater alone. I didn't want to mess with anything over there, and again, if I ever do another playthrough, likely I will probably start in the blue crater. I don't care where I'm going to start as far as anything else. We're starting in the blue crater. It's just because it's such a cool little area to play around in. It's ridiculously dangerous, but it's ridiculously rich because everything around it is amazing. We have stayed as far out of the pink forest on top of the hill as possible. There are a couple of, there's only like one thing I think I'm pulling out of there, or two. There's some coal that I'm pulling out for some power, and the aluminum for our base is coming out of that one that's way over on the other side of that plateau. For the most part, I have stayed out of there except for hunting slugs and hunting the well, the alternate recipe thingy hard drives. There we go. So that's the majority of the worst, I think, of this little section. Let's go look at the last monster and then hang the last little decoration. And it's not that hard to get over here. It's actually kind of one of my favorite things to do if I can get it to work right. Uh-oh. Boink. Ah, that's the fun part. Excellent. Alrighty, nice quick hop, skip, and a jump, and we are over the big hole in the middle of the map where I decided I was going to build, well, my nuclear pasta factory, or whatever this thing is, the pasta factory. The pasta factory is now more or less complete. I finished the railroad track around it. I've got it to where I actually kind of like the way that it looks now. I was actually going to ride it in, but it's kind of a fun little toy to play with. In this factory, we have an utter pile of things going on. Let's see if I can catch it before it goes anywhere else. But this little drone right here is the one that brings these incredibly expensive pressure conversion cubes over to this factory from that one, and then they're then delivered to like what's the luck? Is it gonna make it all the way down? Yeah, it's gonna land on the bottom level, isn't it? What is the luck? Is it gonna go all the way to the bottom? Is it gonna miss? Did it make it? What is the odds? Ah, it made it. It didn't quite make the hole. Anyhow, this is my pasta factory. This is where we make all kinds of fun stuff. This is where we run about, what is it, 20 of these things? 20 of these, 20 of these, whatever you call it. Where the heck is this thing called? I forget what this thing called. It's particle collider. This is where we run 20 particle colliders, cramming 200, well, yeah, I'm just going to say it like this. 200 copper powder per minute, one of those per minute times 20 inside this base to do all of that work. Now that equates to about 10 nuclear pasta per minute, and when we did that 1,000 nuclear pasta at the very end, it took it, well, it didn't take it very long, mainly because I screwed up and kept quite a few of them accidentally. But they're all then, well, kind of, it's a fun way of doing things, I guess. I should look at this one. Let me get all the way down to the bottom, and then we can ride the tube back up. I do have to remember that I have just a jetpack on and not anything else. The power is not ran where I can actually do a lot of easy work with the that thing. But anyhow, essentially what happens is we come in from the front over here where we've already looked at several of the copper powder factories. There are 4, well, tier 5 belts coming into this base, which are doing roughly about, I forget what it is, like 700, I think, each a minute, 600 like that. And the last copper powder factory is right here. And, you know, it kind of comes in, splits. There's a divisor additional adder thingy over there that tries to do a decent job of, well, it's not doing a decent job, but it's doing an okay job of pretty much sorting and splitting everything into mostly 4 equal belts. It doesn't need to be equal because of the fact I'm actually making like 60 or 70 more than I need. But that comes into the system, walks its way down through here, goes under the walkway and over the, well, pretty much abyss of this big gigantic hole that's in the middle of the world. If you're unsure where we are, we're right over this thing. Yes, I built the whole thing over it just because I felt like it was a good idea. Anyhow, we have a couple of interesting things about this one. Again, all of the belting is done vertically except for the stuff that initially spreads things to all of the 4 sides. So the copper comes in and spreads around the base underneath. The pressure conversion cubes spread around from the top and come down. So the copper goes up, the conversion cubes go down, and these guys, once they get done making their nuclear pasta, send them up vertically to another catcher area up there. Before, when we decided, well, when I was doing the actual delivery of the nuclear pasta to our base so that I could feed it into the space elevator, there was another drone hub up there that delivered that stuff to it. Once we completed that project, I took that out and put an awesome sink in its place. But let's go down here and we'll check the other fun stuff. I did actually got to test this a little bit today when I was putting in that rail line because I had to disconnect the power, and it ran perfectly fine. So all 4 banks have accumulation of at least enough power so that we don't necessarily have to feed these monsters the max amount of power that they want all the time. So in right here is right now, it's the most it's going to use is going to be 1,500 megawatts of power, but the average is 1,000. So all I got to do right now is make up for that extra 500. And what we do is we're using those downstairs. Well, we're not. I would say we're using those now. I built these in because it was kind of fun and I figured we'd be okay. And then I did a little bit of math and a little bit of work, and I think the update 7 changed the ways things work to the point that overclocking is not nearly as nasty as it used to be as far as using power. So we kind of gained a lot of power. When we first turned this off, these little humps right here, we're getting over our production line just a little bit. And what that means is the batteries were catching up when that hump happens. So essentially what I did here is I put down enough battery capacity so that I could output 500 megawatts for long enough to get through a cycle where this is above, above that 1,000 mark. So theoretically right now they're charging until they get to 1,000 megawatts. Once they get over 1,000 megawatts, then it's discharging. So from there to there, I will be able to produce or supply the needed power from below us down here into this machine. And then once it gets back down below that, it's going to take enough time to just, well, once we get below 1,000, it takes enough time to go back down to 500, shut off and cycle again, that those will charge back up. So as long as you're not overusing your network normally, you can kind of get away with, well, a bunch of these powering those if you're a little short on power. As it sits right now, we're thank you very much, update 7 or whichever the update was that changed the way that the overclocking works. We've got a few things that are overclocked around the world, and well, that changed changed how much power they used, so it's not too terrible bad for us now. All right, I think the one thing I did want to do was ride the train around, but we can ride the train around on the way out the door, but because I kind of had to have a little bit of fun getting down here. All right, I want to go to I want to go to the top. We need to go to the top first and go see how many tickets. Let's hop through the thing and see if we get zapped. Nope. How much do we get? This is like one of the only places I use hypertubes for doing what you're supposed to be doing with hypertubes, because this build is just so tall. How much do we have? Oh, we're back up to 11 and 12. We'll crank it up a little more. We have 550 tickets. Go ahead, print those, please. I'll take them. Print them again. I'll take those. Now, unfortunately, that's not 2,000 tickets, and I understand that was the whole point of me and this system or this idea. I'm not interested in continuing this anymore. I'm actually interested in kind of playing some other games at this point, because of the fact that this is just now a set it and forget it kind of thing. I can turn it on, I can let it run for a week, I'd have all the tickets I want. But I do want at least one thing for this particular base, and that is that thing right there. Thank you very much. What else can we get for 78 points? I don't think there's anything I can get for 78 points. No, I can get some of this other stuff. I was looking at getting some of these other little dudes here, but that is what I want. This is kind of the thing about getting to the end of the game. You can continue to make more power and more stuff and feed things into an awesome sink and make enough tickets that you can, buy all the fun stuff, or you can just do something silly like that. Does it look like I thought it was going to look? Yes, it does. Can I place it down and make it bigger? Or am I going to have to go install another mod? Yep, that's what I thought I was going to say. All right, cool. No, perfect. Perfect. Let me have that. Now we have to test a few things. I want to see something. Where is this? We'll try that. Can I place this on that? Excellent. Can I have that? Now. All right. 1, 2, 3. Yeah? All right. We're going to put this thing in the middle out there for fun, because I can. Where is some concrete? I'm back. I didn't want you to do that. Go away. Which one did I get? I got the wrong thing. I love it. No, I don't want that. Put that back where it belongs. I think that's the right direction. I hope. All right. The center of this base is not necessarily, so the center of this factory is not necessarily center as far as I recall. I think it's like right, maybe it is center. I don't remember this being odd. All right, well, here's the fun part. What I want to do, and I know it sounds kind of dumb, I'm gonna put that right there. We're gonna have to play with this a little bit. Back up and look that direction just a little. A little forward. Probably not going to get much better than that. Let's try it one more time. Let's see what happens if we look at it this direction. The thing about this game is it has no gravity. So I want to take the thing that I make here and get it right smack dab in the center of this factory, and then I'm going to put that thing on top of it. I'm going to call that good. Which way is the front? I want the front to face that way. Oh, dang it. Grab the wrong thing. Hang on a minute. Try that again. Let me get this sorted. We'll get it down. All right, and then we're going to put that right like that. Again, I don't want to put it like that. I want it facing the direction towards the face of everything. So we'll try this. Scoot it over a little bit. Right there. No, come on. Maybe right over there. All right, that's better. That's kind of where I want it looking at it. That's way it's sitting on top of the thing that we bought most of the parts with. Now I'm gonna say that I've had 500 or 600 points for quite a long time. But here's the fun part. There's a hole underneath of us right now. Completely. It's gonna stay right there forever. And if it falls in, I don't really care. I wish it was bigger. I wish they were both bigger. But that this factory got us all of those things so we could get that, so we could complete the game towards the end of it. I think for right now, I think that's what I'm going to stick with, and we're going to leave it right there so long as it doesn't fall in. Now, I know for a fact that that thing will stay right there for as long as I leave it. So unless an update produces, well, unless an update produces gravity, it'll sit right there forever. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, I know this might be a little bit of a longer one. I'm going to have to do quite a bit of hacking and cutting and talking and all this kinds of stuff. Plus I've talked myself hoarse as the way things go. But anyhow, I think we're done with Satisfactory for now, unless update 8 or 9 or one of the other things comes back with a reasonably usable or fun thing. I think we're kind of done seeing all of the stuff happen with Satisfactory. I honestly think that probably very soon we're going to see Satisfactory release, and in which case, well, we'll start over with a release and do the story and do everything else. This, again, like I said, this will be the last one, at least, that I'm going to schedule. We're going to be moving another series up from Thursday to Monday. So those of you that are watching Ixion, we're going to be moving those to Mondays. And for those of you that like watching Satisfactory, you should check out Ixion. It's a lot of fun. It's going to be quite a good run for us, is the way things go. But I think for right now, I'm gonna call that, and I'm gonna zoom in on the floaty. It's just gonna zoom in on it and leave it just like that. I'll see you all. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.